What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm picking NFL Week 4 matchups, so let's hop into it. And if you like these types of videos and want to support the channel, please consider subscribing because at 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing a $100 Fanatics gift card giveaway. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing. But anyway, Week 3, my record was 11-5, which I don't think it was too bad, which brings my overall NFL pick'em record to 33-15. Once again, I don't think it's too bad. But anyway, moving on to Week 4, on Thursday Night Football, we have an NFC North showdown. We have the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. And the last time these two teams met, Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions knocked the Green Bay Packers, the Aaron Rodgers led Green Bay Packers, out of a playoff spot. So yeah, the last time these two teams met, Detroit did get the better of Green Bay. And I do think Detroit has a really good chance in this game as well. And Detroit has scored 20 or more points in 12 straight games dating back to last year, which honestly, that's a pretty impressive streak right there. And this week they have the Green Bay Packers, who are actually on the other side of a comeback victory. A couple of weeks ago, the Falcons came back and beat them 25-24. Well, last week they were down 17-0, and Jordan Love and that Packers team came back to beat the Saints last week. Derek Carr did get knocked out of that game with a shoulder injury, but still a 17-point comeback is still impressive nonetheless. So this game will be taking place at Lambeau Field, and I will be giving this game to the Detroit Lions, as I do think they are just a little bit better than the Packers. The Packers have kind of been playing sporadic a little bit. Detroit has been a lot more consistent, at least in my opinion. So because of that, I do think Detroit will win this game. And I think it's going to be a pretty close, gritty game, and I have Detroit winning it by a score of 24-20. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both these teams lost last week. The Falcons lost to the Detroit Lions. The Jaguars lost in a game that really surprised me. They lost to the Houston Texans. It was 37-17. That was one of my wrong picks last week, as the Texans just came out looking great. CJ Stroud looked really good, and Jacksonville just kind of fell flat. So, who's going to bounce back? Are the Falcons going to bounce back? Are the Jaguars going to bounce back? And I think if the Falcons want to bounce back, they got to start a lot faster. They've only scored 2 first half touchdowns this entire year, and they only put up 6 points last week. So once again, they need to get the ball rolling on offense. Jacksonville, kind of the same way. Their offense has been pretty lackluster this year. They lost a couple weeks ago to the Chiefs, and I want to say they only put up 9 points. They lost last week to the Texans, only putting up 17. So both of these teams' offenses have to step up. And which team is going to do that? It's really kind of a toss up in my opinion, but I will be giving this one to the Jaguars right here, 20-13. Then we have a huge AFC East showdown. We have the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins absolutely beat down the Denver Broncos last week, putting up 70 points on them. They had over 700 yards, and I'm pretty sure that was a visual representation of what beating a dead horse means, but still just an absolute dominant performance by the Dolphins. And the Bills also had a relatively dominant performance last week as well, beating the Washington Commanders 37-3. Granted, they didn't put up 70 points, but still, they won that game in comfortable fashion. So once again, I expect there to be a lot of fireworks in this game. So the Dolphins' offense is explosive. I know I say that in what seems like every single weekly NFL Pick'em video, but this Dolphins offense is super explosive. And the Buffalo Bills, still a pretty explosive team. Besides that week 1 loss to the Jets, they dominated last week 37-3 against Washington. The week before, 38-10 against the Raiders. So the Bills, they're finding their footing, they're finding their groove. And like I said before, I think there's going to be so much fireworks in this game. And it's really a toss up of who's going to win. But after Miami's dominant performance last week, I think they're right up there in best team in the AFC and maybe best team in the NFL after that. So I am going to give this one right here to the Dolphins by a score of 41-31. I think it's going to be the highest scoring game of week 4. I think it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be an offensive shootout. Miami doesn't turn the ball over as much as Buffalo does. Josh Allen is super prone to turnovers, and I think that swings this game in Miami's favor. And then coming off what is probably the best game of the week, we have what is probably going to be the worst game of the week. Just complete opposite sides of the spectrum. We have the 0-3 Denver Broncos at the 0-3 Chicago Bears. I just talked about how Denver got absolutely whooped last week, 70-20. The Bears wasn't much better for them, as they lost to the Chiefs 41-10. And this is just probably going to be a very sloppy, very poorly played game, as these are honestly probably the worst two teams in the league, at least by how they've looked. And this game, it's been hard for me to pick because I'm just like going back and forth, like, where's the silver linings for these teams? I do think Denver with Russell Wilson, He has won in the past. Justin Fields really hasn't won anything since he's been in the league. I think he only has 5 or 6 wins in his career. So because of that fact alone, I'm going to pick the Denver Broncos to get this win, just because Russell Wilson has at least had a history of winning compared to Justin Fields, really history of nothing. So for that reason, I'm going to give the Broncos a win. And it was probably a really sloppy game, and I think the score is going to be like 17-10. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be one of the worst games of the week and maybe one of the worst games of the year. And I don't mean to be harsh to these teams, but they've played super poorly. It is what it is. So yeah. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns, another divisional showdown. This time it is in the AFC North. The Ravens lost to the Colts last week in overtime, and ultimately, I'm not a Ravens fan, but I do think they probably should have won that game. They kind of got hosed there with a non-call. The Colts defender definitely was holding on that play. But anyway, they did lose that game. The Browns, on the other hand, they played the Tennessee Titans. They held the Titans to under 94 yards of total offense, which is just insane. Derrick Henry only had 20 yards rushing against this Browns defense. And this Browns defense seems legit. We're 3 weeks into the year. They've only allowed one touchdown on a busted coverage that went for 70 yards against the Steelers. And to further cement that point, this Browns offense has let opposing teams score 2 touchdowns, one on a pick six and one on a fumble six. So the Browns offense has let opposing teams score more touchdowns than this defense, which is just insane. And I think the Browns defense is definitely right up there with, I would say, the 49ers defense and the Cowboys defense, who the Cowboys did have a down week last week, but their defense is right up there with the best of the best in this league. And they might even be the best defense in this league. But they do have a test this week with Baltimore in this Ravens run game. I know they've had some injuries in that running back position, but regardless, with Lamar Jackson playing in this game, Deshaun Watson had his best game in a Browns uniform last week. So if both of those guys are playing well, this game should be a really good game. It should be a really close game. And with how well this Browns defense has been playing, I got to give Cleveland the benefit of the doubt right here. And I think Cleveland wins a closely contested matchup right here by a score of 21-16. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals did get their first win of the year last week against the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. The Tennessee Titans, like I just talked about, they did lose their game to the Cleveland Browns in a game where Cleveland's defense just absolutely dominated them. Derrick Henry only had 20 rushing yards, which if they want to win, he obviously has to do a lot better. Their offense as a whole just has to do a lot better. You got to get more than 94 yards, I should say, of total offense. So both of these offenses have had a relatively slow start to this season. Ryan Tannehill hasn't been playing great. Joe Burrow on the Bengals side, he's been dealing with that injury, and I definitely think he should have taken it easy this year. And before the season started, Jamar Chase said Burrow should sit out till like week 5 to make sure he's fully healthy, and I 100% agreed with that statement, but he's playing through that injury, and that just makes me nervous for this Bengals team, especially because their offense is kind of sluggish right now. And since he's playing hurt, that doesn't help the cause. But because Cincinnati did get a win last week, their defense did look good. It was a close game, but I do think Cincinnati can carry that momentum into Tennessee this week and get another win right here. So I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game by a score of 28-20. Then we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams did lose to the Bengals on Monday Night Football. The Colts did beat Baltimore in overtime last week, which really shocked me. Matt Gay for the Colts hit 4 50-plus yard field goals, which was just insane. He set an NFL record for most 50-yard field goals made in a single game. So good on him for that. The Rams, on the other hand, they got a really good win in week 1. They just haven't found their groove yet. A kind of depressing stat I found on the Rams was they've only won 6 games since they won the Super Bowl a couple of seasons ago. I know they've dealt with injuries. Cooper Kupp hasn't played this year. He got injured last year. They really sold out for that Super Bowl a few years ago. So they're not playing real well. They could win this game, but I think the Colts, like that AFC South division, has kind of thrown me for a loop this year. That's the division I've been wrong about the most, as I think Jacksonville was supposed to do really good. They've kind of been sluggish. The Colts have been playing a lot better than I thought they would be playing. Same with like the Texans. So this division has just kind of surprised me all year, and I'm not going to pick against them this week. So I think the Colts will win this game at home against the Rams by a score of 23-21. Then we have an NFC South showdown. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did lose to the Eagles, also on Monday Night Football. Then we have the New Orleans Saints, who did lose to the Packers last week. They had a 17-point lead, but the Packers came all the way back and won. And ultimately, a devastating thing for the Saints was Derek Carr left that game with a shoulder injury. So I'm pretty sure he's been ruled out for this upcoming week. I don't think the Saints have made a firm decision on that at the recording of this video, but I'm like 95% sure that he will not play for the Saints this week. It will be Jameis Winston. And honestly, out of all the backup quarterbacks out there, Jameis Winston's probably one of the best. He was a starter in this league for, coincidentally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And because of that, I do think the Saints have a really good chance. They have a really good defense. Not that Tampa Bay's been playing bad. Baker Mayfield's actually been having this team play pretty good. So this will be a really good game. At least I think it will. And I do think the Saints, they bounce back. Jameis Winston gets a win right here against his former team. So I'm going to give this win right here to the Saints as they take a little bit of a lead in that division. And I'm having the Saints win this game by a score of 26-24. And now, yet another divisional matchup. We have the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles improved to 3-0 this week. The Commanders lost their first game of the season, and I think it was ultimately a reality check type of game. The Bills just absolutely destroyed them. The Eagles got a win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. And the Eagles, even though they're one of the three remaining undefeated teams left, they haven't really been dominating games, but they keep on winning, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that just continues over into this week. I don't think they're going to absolutely destroy the Commanders. I think the Commanders will hang around and play a relatively good football game. But the Eagles, they just keep on winning, and I think that just continues this week as they improve to 4-0 against this Commanders team. And I think they win this game by a score of 30-20. Moving on, we then have the Minnesota Vikings at the Carolina Panthers, and this is a game where neither team has won yet. So once again, this will be the second game this week that two teams with 0 wins, the first game being the Broncos and Bears. Now we have the Minnesota Vikings and the Panthers. So two teams are going to get their first win this week, so that's at least good. The Minnesota Vikings, I'm surprised, have started out 0-3, as they do have a relatively good roster. The Panthers doesn't really surprise me. They did have Bryce Young, a rookie quarterback, start the first couple of games. He did get injured, so Andy Dalton started last week's game. And I'm not 100% sure who their quarterback is going to be this week. I don't know if Andy Dalton's going to play again or if it's going to be Bryce Young. I don't know if they've made a decision on that yet. But Minnesota, Kirk Cousins is leading the league in passing. Justin Jefferson is leading the league in receiving. So it's not like their offense is struggling. It's just that they've been losing these close games. Last year they were 11-0 in one-score games, which was just insane. This year they're 0-3. So I think the scales are just kind of tipping. They're kind of balancing out, kind of making up for Minnesota's success last year. Is just kind of, once again, reality is just kind of catching up with them. That's not a way to win in the NFL. You can't just get by the skin of your teeth, and it will eventually catch up to you at some point. But I do think Minnesota will get their first win of the season right here against a beaten up Carolina Panthers team. So I have the Vikings winning this game right here by a score of 28-13. And then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Houston Texans. The Steelers beat the Raiders last week. The Texans got a surprising win, at least it was surprising to me, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They hung 37 points on their head, which I definitely was not expecting. So both of these teams won last week. The Steelers 2-1 coming into Houston, who's been playing relatively good football. And CJ Stroud has been looking really good. And Stroud has been looking like one of the best rookie quarterbacks this year. He has over 900 yards in his 3 starts, which actually puts him the third most by a rookie quarterback in their first 3 starts. So he's been playing really good. And this is my upset pick of the week. I think Houston uses that momentum they got last week. The Steelers' offense under Matt Canada has kind of been struggling lately. They did have a 300-yard game last week against the Raiders, so that is good. That's a step in the right direction. I think Houston carries their momentum this week and gets an upset win against the Steelers. So like I said, this is my upset pick of the week, as I have the Houston Texans beating the Pittsburgh Steelers right here by a score of 16-9. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring, defensive-oriented game, and Houston's just going to come out on top. Then we have yet another divisional matchup. We have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Raiders lost to the Steelers last week. The Chargers did get their first win last week against the Minnesota Vikings. And both of these teams do have injury trouble, as Jimmy Garoppolo is being evaluated for a concussion, so I'm not sure if he's going to play this week. The Chargers got devastating news as wide receiver Mike Williams will be out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. So that just sucks for the Chargers, but they still have Keenan Allen at that wide receiver spot, so they should be fine in that department. And I do think the Chargers, with their explosive offense, have a good chance of beating the Raiders this week. So I have the Chargers winning this game right here by a score of 30-17 in this AFC West showdown. And then we have America's game, the New England Patriots at the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriots won last week against the New York Jets, which brings their win streak against the Jets to 15 games, which once again, that's just insane. Absolute dominance by the Patriots against the Jets. So good for them. The Cowboys lost last week to the Cardinals, and this was probably the most shocking game of last week, as the Cowboys, their defense seemed really good the first couple of weeks. Their offense seemed to move the ball completely fine, and it all just kind of came to a halt against the Cardinals. The Cardinals have put up good fights this entire year. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league this year, and I was wrong. I don't think the Cardinals are the worst team. I think that is going to be decided by who wins and who loses the Broncos-Bears game this week. But yeah, so the Cowboys lost a stunner last week to the Cardinals, so they're looking to rebound. The Patriots got their first win. They're looking to just keep the winning streak going. But I do think the Cowboys, after that embarrassing loss to the Cardinals last week, rebound right here and get a win over the New England Patriots by a score of 27-21. I think it's going to be a relatively good game. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals, like I said before, pulled off that upset against the Dallas Cowboys last week. And now they have the San Francisco 49ers, who are one of the last undefeated teams remaining. And if Arizona is able to pull off an upset against the 49ers, then I don't even know what I'm going to do. But I don't think that's going to happen, as the 49ers have scored 30 points in every single game this season. They won in week 1 30-7, then they won 30-23, and last week they won 30-12. So I think it is a safe bet to say that the 49ers are probably going to put up at least 30 points again this week against the Arizona Cardinals. And another thing is, like, the 49ers aren't turning the ball over. Brock Purdy hasn't lost a game in the regular season, and I know his career hasn't been that long, but still he hasn't lost yet. So once again, the 49ers, a really complete team. They have playmakers all over the ball on both sides of the ball. And this Cardinals team, yes, they've been resilient this year. They've put up good fights, but I just don't see them beating the 49ers. But hey, I said I didn't see them beating the Cowboys last week, but they did. But I can't pick the Cardinals right here. The 49ers are just too good. So I have the 49ers winning this game right here by a score of 30-7. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Jets on Sunday Night Football. And I know when they made the schedule, they had the Mahomes Aaron Rodgers showdown in mind. But with Aaron Rodgers' injury and him being out for the rest of the year, it will be Zach Wilson at quarterback. And the Jets have not won a game since that week 1 win against the Buffalo Bills. Kansas City, on the other hand, they have won their past 2 games. And last week, they absolutely destroyed the Chicago Bears at home. So yeah, the Chiefs playing really good right now. The Jets, their offense kind of in a rut, not playing really good right now. And I got to give this game right here to the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 34-17, as I just think the Jets, they're struggling right now. And then closing out the week, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. And the Seahawks have put up 37 points in their past 2 games, so that's a little fun fact for you. Meanwhile, the Giants' offense has really been struggling this year. Besides that second half comeback win against the Arizona Cardinals, they really haven't showed much. I know it's hard without left tackle Andrew Thomas and running back Saquon Barkley, but still Daniel Jones is getting pressured on almost 40% of all of his dropbacks. So this Giants offense really isn't doing much. And for that reason, I think the Seattle Seahawks will come in there and get a win in New York right here by a score of 28-23. So yeah, those are my week 4 NFL picks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Leave your thoughts. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if I picked your favorite team to win. Subscribe to the channel if I didn't pick your favorite team to win. That way, when I do pick your favorite team to win, you'll be able to see that video. But anyway, I will catch you with another video. God bless.